Something major has just happened to Cheryl Swoops, and it changes everything for Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. After years of pushing false narratives, fueling public feuds, and repeatedly targeting the league's biggest star, Swoops is now facing consequences that look eerily similar to what happened to her back in 2016 at Loyola University Chicago. She's been fired again, and the details surrounding this situation are shocking. They reveal a clear and consistent pattern of behavior that has finally caught up with her. What the WNBA has quietly done will surprise
to be fired.
She got fired, but it looked like you got fired, bro. It looked like she got fired. I just gotta keep it real. It looked like she got fired.
Here's what most people don't.
But once you hear the full story, it becomes clear why this outcome was unavoidable. Let me know down in the comments if you believe Cheryl Swoops deserved to be fired. Because let's keep it real, it looks like she got fired. It really does. No sugarcoating it. Here's what most people don't know about Cheryl Swoops. This isn't the first time she's faced serious consequences for controversial behavior. Back in 2016, Loyola University Chicago found itself in the middle of a coaching situation that was spiraling completely out of control. Multiple players came forward with serious complaints about the women's basketball program, forcing the athletic department to launch a full investigation. Reports surfaced that Loyola's women's basketball coach Cheryl Swoops was under investigation for mistreating players. The situation had reached a breaking point. Not only was she under scrutiny, but the majority of the team had reportedly decided to leave the program altogether. The investigation uncovered a coaching style that went far beyond being tough or demanding. Players described an emotionally unstable environment. Swoops would reportedly cry during halftime speeches and practices, begging the team to play better. She would storm out of practice sessions when things didn't go her way. In one particularly alarming incident, she allegedly sat in complete silence for an entire practice. It became clear that being a legendary player did not automatically translate into being an effective coach. Former Loyola player Kate Scott explained that Swoops created an atmosphere of fear where players were routinely threatened with losing their scholarships or being cut from the team. It stopped being about working hard or enjoying basketball. It became about survival. The emotional volatility wasn't the only issue. Players reported that Swoops frequently threatened scholarships and shared personal information players had confided in her with other teammates. One of the most damaging situations involved former player Lauren Hubbard, who claimed Swoops pressured her into signing a medical hardship waiver after knee injuries. Swoops allegedly promised a future role with the team, including travel opportunities that never materialized. By July 2016, Loyola's athletic director Steve Watson had seen enough. Cheryl Swoops' contract was officially terminated, and the university announced she was no longer serving as the women's basketball coach. The investigation confirmed player mistreatment allegations. While no physical abuse or NCAA violations were found, the university concluded that her behavior crossed the line. Former players described an environment that was belittling, humiliating, and emotionally damaging. One summed it up perfectly, saying Swoops was the Michael Jordan of women's basketball, a generational talent who never learned how to teach or mentor without creating chaos. By the time she was fired, the damage was undeniable. 5 players had transferred the previous year. 10 of the 12 remaining players had no intention of returning. The program was in shambles. And this is where the story becomes extremely relevant to what's happening now. Fast forward to today, and the pattern looks uncomfortably familiar. As Caitlin Clark rose to become the most watched, most discussed, and most influential player in women's basketball history, something else happened at the same time.
Telling ABC News, anytime there are allegations of student-athlete mistreatment, it is more than concerning. The welfare of our student-athletes is paramount.
Sohn says there was such a hostile environment, players were turning on each other, and the mistrust was throughout the entire athletic department.
A growing wave of hostility from certain media voices who clearly weren't comfortable with the spotlight shifting. At the center of that storm was Cheryl Swoops. Swoops repeatedly made public comments about Caitlin Clark that many fans and analysts quickly flagged as misleading at best and intentionally dishonest at worst. She questioned Clark's scoring records, falsely implying they were inflated because of extra years, extra shots, or special treatment. Claims that were easily debunked with basic statistics. Clark's records stood on their own. Same shot clock, same number of games
she could find.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Here we go.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
I said that because when she comes to the league, regardless of what team she goes to that has vets on that team, she probably ain't gonna get 40 shots a game.
Same
The lie
rules,
started early.
but that didn't stop the narrative. Instead of celebrating a generational talent, bringing unprecedented attention to women's basketball, Swoops framed Clark as a product of privilege rather than performance. The comments weren't just incorrect, they felt personal. And over time, they became frequent. Fans noticed, players noticed, and eventually the league noticed. The issue wasn't criticism. Every star gets criticized. The issue was consistency. The same energy was never applied equally. Other players broke records, got marketing deals, and received national attention. But Caitlin Clark was singled out in a way that felt calculated. It created division where none was necessary. And the consequences were real. Social media discourse became toxic. Clark was booed in arenas. Opposing players openly targeted her physically on the court. And while competition is part of the game, many felt that influential voices refusing to correct false narratives only poured gasoline on the fire. What made things worse was the silence.
You asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year, and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
When facts were presented. When analysts corrected the record, the claims didn't stop. When fans provided rec, this is where things quietly changed. Without flashy announcements or dramatic press releases, the WNBA began to distance itself. Media roles shifted. Appearances slowed. Invitations stopped coming. And suddenly, a voice that once dominated conversations around women's basketball was noticeably absent. That's how accountability often works at the professional.
You know basketball. You know basketball better than me. You know basketball than any of the pundits. You know basketball better than most of the men that play basketball. There is no way in hell you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it. You know that. Stop it.
Then,
Not loud, not emotional, just decisive. The league understands one simple truth. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player. She's an economic engine. Ticket sales spike wherever she plays. Jersey sales sell out within hours. TV ratings break records. Entire arenas are filled with first-time fans who never watched women's basketball before. You don't sabotage
Since she was in
that.
college, I helped do her shoe deal with Nike in 1993, took her to her first SBs. I've known Cheryl, I've coached her, have a lot of respect for her. I called her when Caitlin was still playing at Iowa and she had just broken Maravich's record. And it was all over the place, as you and I have discussed, that there was this quote by Cheryl that said, Caitlin was, 25 years old. She was, however old, 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior. Right. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate.
The WNBA has spent decades fighting for visibility, respect, and mainstream relevance. And now that it finally has a crossover star bringing global attention, the league isn't going to tolerate internal voices undermining the progress with false or divisive narratives. This doesn't mean Clark is above criticism. It means criticism must be fair, factual, and consistent. And here's the uncomfortable reality for some people. The game has changed. The old gatekeeping mentality, where it's...
That's what Nancy was all about. She was keeping it very, hey, let's bring this women's game let's bring it all together. Let's grow this thing together. And the question was talking about how older people or older players in the league pretty much should going about what's going on in the league. And Nancy knows Caitlin Clark is the biggest She's got the eyes. She's got the fans. Let's not try to sink it. Let's try to get on the boat with her, and let's grow the game.
Attention had to be earned through suffering, silence, or seniority. No longer works. Today's stars are digital, marketable, and followed by millions. You either adapt or you get left behind. Cheryl Swoops' situation isn't about one comment or one player. It's about a long-term pattern, a pattern that previously ended with a program collapsing at Loyola. And now, years later, it appears to have led to another quiet exit, this time from relevance. History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it does rhyme. And in the Caitlin Clark era, the WNBA is making one thing.
See, they ain't got Cheryl no more. Cheryl's gone. Cheryl's gone. Nancy still got her job, though. Nancy still got her job. They got Cheryl built. They got Cheryl built. See? Cheryl was there last year. She ain't there no more.
The league quietly started.
If you're going to speak on the future of the league, you better not be stuck in the past. This isn't just another sports media disagreement. This is a turning point. For decades, women's basketball fought for visibility. Players begged for airtime, begged for sponsorships, begged for respect. And the biggest obstacle was never talent. It was attention. Now, for the first time, the WNBA has a player who doesn't need to ask for attention. She commands it. Caitlin Clark didn't just bring fans. She brought new fans. Casual fans. NBA fans. Young girls. Entire families. People who never watched a single WNBA game before suddenly new schedules, stats,
Sidelines.
rivalries.
It looks like the Dallas Wings have left off Mrs. Cheryl Swoops on the broadcasting team for the 2025 season. If you guys remember, Cheryl Swoops, she was on the broadcasting team last year, right?
But
And
here's where
jersey numbers.
Swoops.
That changes everything. And when that happens, the league has a responsibility to protect the ecosystem around that growth. Because narratives shape behavior. Media commentary influences how fans treat players, how opponents play them, and how officials officiate games. When false or biased narratives go unchecked, they don't stay theoretical. They turn
The
physical.
team that I feel made the biggest moves, maybe even the best moves, that would be the Indiana Fever. I think the Indiana Fever went from just being in the playoffs last season to potentially winning a championship. How much stronger Caitlin got in the offseason. You know, she was in the gym working on her game. This Indiana Fever team, they have put the pieces together in this offseason, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
The complete 100.
They turn hostile. They turn ugly. We saw it on the court. Hard fouls that crossed the line. Cheap shots away from the ball. Moments where officials swallowed whistles. Crowds reacting not to basketball, but to stories they've been fed. That's not competition. That's contamination. The WNBA knows this moment is fragile. One wrong move could undo years of progress. And allowing respected former players to repeatedly spread misleading claims about the league's biggest draw isn't free speech. It's self-sabotage. That's why the response wasn't emotional. It was strategic. No public feud. No messy headlines. Just quiet distancing.
I kept on saying it. I said, Cheryl Swoops, you are going to find yourself out of the media so fast by how you're, by how you're moving, how you're talking on other players, talking on other people's podcasts.
Stephen A.
Because
Smith.
the league understands something critics don't want to admit. Protecting the future sometimes means disappointing the past. This is the cost of evolution. At this stage, the most powerful statement wasn't anything Cheryl Swoops said. It was what she didn't say. No dita de explanación. No public accountability. No acknowledgement of the factual errors that started the backlash. Just silence. And in modern sports media, silence is never neutral. Because while Swoops disappeared for broadcasts, the conversation didn't slow down. It accelerated. Fans began connecting dots that had never been placed side by side before. The Loyola investigation, the player testimonials, the transfer exodus, the pattern of emotional volatility, the public targeting of a generational star. Individually,